Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyervip.com for football picks and basketball picks. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Now, I think we've shown here online that we do okay picking point spread games and money line plays and totals, right? But, in my opinion, that's a sideshow. The real show is actually in futures, because we know underdogs sometimes break through. Right? 2 years ago, the Seattle Seahawks, an underdog, beat Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos in the Super Bowl. We also know that with underdogs, right, you can get them relatively cheaply, right? And you can hedge the play later for profit. In other words, if I buy a 10-to-1 long shot to win the Super Bowl, and that 10-to-1 long shot ends up in the playoffs, I don't even have to wait for the Super Bowl, right? Let's say I bet $1 with a chance to win 10. If that 10-to-1 long shot ends up in the playoffs, and I'm able to bet against them in the playoffs, I can bet $3 against them in the playoffs, right? Even if the line's a little staggered, I could bet $3 against them in the playoffs. And if I win that bet, I walk home with a profit. Even if I lose that bet and my team gets even further in the playoffs, understand, I still have leverage because I got 10-to-1 odds. So all we're trying to do here is to pick teams on futures that have a chance of making the playoffs. Once they do, then I'll have an opportunity to hedge. Then I'll have an opportunity to be on both sides of the play. Right? That's all we want here. Understand too, just mathematically, and let's go through this, I can try to beat the point spread week to week. Some weeks you're going to win, some weeks you're going to lose. But just mathematically, we all understand that if I get 15-to-1 odds on a football play, on a future, and that future wins, that's like me winning at even money. In fact, better than even money, because I'm not paying the VIG for 15 consecutive weeks. Right? That's a home run. When you pick a future and it actually delivers. Now, I know there are pundits here online who'll say, hey, that's too risky. You're picking a needle in a haystack. Not if I hedge. Right? If I hedge, then I'm cashing out early. Right? Then I'm getting the money I bet back plus a profit early. Now, this video is just going to focus on the NFC in the National Football League. Right? We'll save the AFC for some later date. Now, think about how robust the turnover is in the NFC. Right? The San Francisco 49ers. Colin Kaepernick. Wasn't he just a play away from winning the Super Bowl not too long ago? Didn't this 49er team make it to 3 consecutive NFC championship games? Right? Well, let's face it, folks. They're out of the running. Right? 2 teams that made the playoffs last year. In fact, they played each other in the playoffs last year in the NFC. This is the most recent season. The Dallas Cowboys, the Detroit Lions. They're out of the running, aren't they? I would say several other teams are out of the running, even some competitive teams. I agree the Washington Redskins have improved, but they play the New England Patriots this weekend. The Redskins already are not in the 1 spot in their division. I would say, as improved as the Washington Redskins are, they're out of the running. right? We're just looking at teams in the NFC here. So let's talk about futures. You heard me talk about how a 15-1 that hits is like winning an even money bet 15 weeks in a row, right? All we're trying to do here is to get positions on teams that might make the playoffs so we can fade them in the playoffs, right? Look at the Minnesota Vikings. Can we agree that in the NFC, right, Green Bay is in the playoffs, right? I would say Carolina's in the playoffs. I'd go further and say Arizona's in the playoffs. So you have 3 spots in the NFC open, right? 3 spots that teams right now are competing for. What we want to do is to try to throw a little money on teams that have a viable chance. If the odds are so long that if just a few of these teams make it into the playoffs, we're in a position to cash in. In my opinion, this is how you beat Vegas. So, the Minnesota Vikings right now, 5 wins, 2 losses. Let me repeat that. 5 wins, 2 losses. Folks, Green Bay's only 1 game ahead of them. Right? Did you know you can get the Minnesota Vikings today, not at 15-1. You can get them today to win the whole thing at 33-1. Now, I believe what's going on is the casual gambler seems to think that by taking them at 33-1, you actually believe that young Teddy Bridgewater and this Viking team's going to win it all. No. What I'm saying is they might have an inside track at a playoff position. Right? Sign me up at 33-1. I bet $10. I have a chance to get $330 back in profits. Understand, if the Vikings make the playoffs, right? Let's say they're 2-1 underdogs that first playoff match at this kind of leverage, right? I could literally go out and bet $100 against them. Keep in mind, I'm only out of pocket $10. If the favorite, the 2-1 favorite, wins that playoff game, you know what? Then I net 50 minus 10. I net $40 on the transaction. So Minnesota right now, to me, deserves a little bit of cheese. We'll put just a small bet right here to win it all because of the leverage, because of your chances of making your money back. Now understand, what I'm talking about is almost like, a venture capital fund, right? It's almost like an entertainment, music company, right? Many of these teams are just going to fail. Many of these ventures are going to fail. But the upside is so great. If any of these teams hit, that'll wipe out your losses for the others. So here's another team, and this is staggering. Atlanta. Folks, they're 6-2 right now. Think about it. They're second in their division to the Carolina Panthers. Right, second. Did you know you can get them right now? And today is November 2nd. We're into November 2015. You can get them right now at 30-1. Don't you think you need some money on this play? A team that's won 6 games. Give me a break. They have an inside track on making the playoffs, whether you think they're a great team or not. Another team. Now, let's say this. I'm not saying this team is that strong, but can we agree, due to the math, due to the way the game is structured, due to the way the game is rigged in terms of playoff seeding, right? And by rigged, I don't mean anything untoward. I just mean this is the way things are, right? Somebody is going to win the NFC East. Can we agree on that? That doesn't mean that team is that strong. It just means that somebody's going to win the NFC East. Now, given that somebody has to win the NFC East, why don't we look at the team in first right now? The New York Giants, right? Understand, whoever wins the NFC East is in the playoffs, right? Whether they have an above 500 record or not. Now, the Giants, believe it or not, play Tampa Bay. They're favored against Tampa Bay this weekend. The Giants are in first place in the division. Let's look at the other teams. Can we eliminate two out the gate? The Dallas Cowboys and the Washington Redskins. Let's just eliminate those two. So let's say I believe the Giants have a 50-50 chance of winning the division. Right? And keep in mind, Philly has tough games coming up. We just saw Dallas give Seattle all they can handle. Now Philly's going to play Dallas. Right? And so, my point is simply this. Let's say you believe the Giants have a 50-50 chance of making the playoffs. Right? And keep in mind, the playoffs don't make the Giants nervous. Tom Coughlin and Eli have 2 rings each. Did you know that the first place right now, New York Giants, in that division, are going off at 40-1? How could anyone not throw $5 on this play to win $200 in profit? Let's say I don't believe the Giants are that good, but they make the playoffs. Then I could fade the play. Lord knows, at 40-1, I'm getting leverage. Let's name a few other teams that really deserve your attention. If you Google Todd Gurley, and if you look at the number of long runs this guy has had, and keep in mind, the guy hasn't even played the whole year, right? An argument can be made that this rookie right now is the best back in the National Football League. In other words, nobody's popping off long runs like this guy, right? Think about it. The guy hasn't played half a year. Yet the guy has several runs of more than 40 yards. You want to know the talent level? The guy was coming off a major knee injury. Think about it. Major knee injury. He still gets picked in the top half of the first round. Think about it. The St. Louis Rams right now are 4-3. I'm not saying they catch the Arizona Cardinals. What I'm saying, though, is look at their defense the last few weeks. Forget Todd Gurley, right? And that's a Cadillac of a running back, right? He's a home run hitter at running back. Forget Todd Gurley for a moment. Just look at that defense. You want to see great defensive numbers? You look at the Rams the last few weeks. So the Rams are 4-3. Understand, they have a better record right now than the Seahawks. Right? They beat the Seahawks already this year. The Rams are 4-3. Did you know right now you're getting 40-1 on the Rams? 40-1. Now again, I'm not saying the Rams beat all of these teams. I'm not saying the Rams beat Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs. All I'm saying is, wow, at 40-1, again, if I get this team into the playoffs, I'm getting a profit. But if I'm getting 40-1 odds, why am I dinking and dunking with weekly bets, right? You know, in other words, a big part of my portfolio needs to be on futures and hedging. Let me name one more team. Now, we all know this is a quarterback league, don't we? Right? We know that if we were to look at the best teams in this league, right, we're going to find some of the best quarterbacks in this league. Right? I'd say right now New England's probably the best team on the board. They have one of the league's historical quarterbacks, don't they? Right? I'd say if you look at the Green Bay Packers, a team that made the NFC Conference Finals last year, they have one of the league's best quarterbacks. Now, very few quarterbacks in this league have won Super Bowls. One of them threw for 7 touchdowns yesterday. If he's injured, he's doing a damn poor job of letting us know it, because this guy looks like he's still in his prime, doesn't he? He's Drew Brees. He has one of the biggest home field advantages in the National Football League, right? The Saints at home, they're beating a lot of teams. They beat the Giants yesterday. They beat the Cowboys earlier, right? My point to you is the Saints are 4-4 right now. There are 8 games left to play. The Saints have 4 home games, right? Now, some of their road games are against teams with below 500 records or who look beatable. Some of their road games are, I'll just name some of them, against the Redskins, against the Texans, against the Buccaneers. Now, again, I'm not saying that the Saint defense is all that. I'm not saying this is one of the better Saint teams we've seen in our lives, etc., right? My point to you, though, is the team's 4-4. You have one of the league's best quarterbacks. He still has 4 home games in front of him. If he runs the table at home, that's 8 wins. If he beats teams like the Bucks on the road, that's 9. The Skins, that's 10. You could see a scenario where this team gets in the playoffs. Here's the best part. Right now in the New Orleans Saints on futures market, you're getting 66-1 odds. In other words, I go to the window, I bet $1 on the Saints. I have a chance of winning $66. Let's say I don't believe in the Saints. I'm like, come on, this team's a joke, right? $1. They make the playoffs. I could come in week 1 and say, what the hell? Let me bet $20 against the Saints. Right? That team wins. Even if that team was a 2-1 favorite, I'm netting 10 minus 1. I'm netting $9 on the transaction. Right? Now, all I'm saying is, we've used $1 on the Saints as an example. You can imagine how the numbers multiply if I throw $10 on the Saints at 66-1 odds. Just think about the leverage I'm getting. Right? Again, it's Drew Brees. It's Sean Payton. They've replaced Jimmy Graham with Ben Watson. Have you been paying attention to his numbers? Right? Look at the running game. Look at what Mark Ingram has done. Look at what Robinson has done. Right? Understand, when we talk about potent offenses in this league, not many teams can have games where there are 7 passing touchdowns. That's what Drew Brees threw down 24 hours ago. So my point to you is simply this. And again, I know there are going to be some people saying, oh, you can't take everybody on a future. Obviously, they're not paying attention to odds like 33-1, 40-1, 66-1. You know what? I not only can take multiple teams at these odds, I can take teams with a realistic shot of making the playoffs. Minnesota, they're in second right now. Atlanta, they're in second right now. The Giants, they're in first right now. St. Louis, they're in second right now. And the Saints at 4-4. Right? Understand, each of these teams right now are going off at 30-1 or greater. So if your future's better, it's Christmas in November. How are they throwing around odds like this late in the season? Right? Can we agree that at least some of these 5 teams are going to make the playoffs? Again, Minnesota, Atlanta, the Giants, St. Louis, and the Saints. Some of these teams are going to make the playoffs. Don't you want the team that makes the playoffs paying out the longest odds? Let's face it too. We know upsets happen, don't we? Right? All I'm saying is, if you take a 40-1 long shot and they make the conference final, right? You know what? That's a further hedging opportunity. Lord knows if they make the Super Bowl, you're looking at the possibility of getting the appreciation on your small bet on the front end. So to me, Minnesota right here, November 2nd, 2015 at 33-1. Atlanta at 30-1. The Giants at 40-1. St. Louis at 40-1. And the Saints at 66-1 are worth the play. Again, you want to treat this like a hedge fund, right? You want to sell high when they get in the playoffs, right? You understand going in that with 3 teams practically already in the playoffs in the NFC, Arizona, Carolina, and Green Bay, you understand that these teams, not all of them are going to make the playoffs. Not even 50% of them is going to make the playoffs. But if you get 2 in the playoffs at these odds, you can water the plants. You can then do the hedge to get your money back. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. Leave your comments for me here online if you disagree with me. If you feel that Kirk Cousins and the Redskins are going to find a way against the New England Patriots and then are going to go on a run, or if you feel that the Dallas Cowboys, who just lost at home again, right, are going to catch fire once Romo comes back, right? Maybe you believe that Romo coming back from a fractured clavicle is going to be prime Romo, right? Maybe you believe that a Cowboy rushing attack that has been so unsettled that Randall lost his starting job is going to rule the roost. If you disagree with me on my assessment of teams outside of the playoffs, and if you feel there are other teams on the board that we need to look at, then I hope you provide that information to all of us in the comment section to this video. Let's try to beat the casino. Thanks for stopping by.